Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
I ain't playing weak, no, I'm playing for keeps. Can't stop me, I'm a legend. I run with the crew that's making the moves. Get out of the way, we coming through. We got this, never stopping, and we won't lose. No, we can't lose. Yeah! Are you ready? Yeah! We are the legends. We are the legends. Yeah! Are you ready? We are the legends. We are the legends.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Racecraft Simulations V8 Veterans for the Split 2 action for Season 22, Round 2 out at Brands Hatch this evening. We're in for a new year, but it's still a new car, still a new generation, still some new challenges for these drivers to contest with as they look to tackle this circuit for 200 Ks here this evening. I'm your commentator here tonight, Hamish Munro, joined this week by Jack Anderson, the ringer. And Jack, when did you last get ice cream?
When did I go last get ice cream? It wasn't too long ago, mate.
Oh, very, very good. Well, obviously, you know, this has been the new toy that a lot of drivers have been playing with over the last few weeks, yourself included. You know, how has it been learning the Gen 3 car, and how do you think some of these drivers are going to have to contest with themselves tonight to get really settled into this Brands Hatch circuit, knowing this is a tough circuit as it is, even without being in this car?
Yeah, I've really loved getting used to the new car, and it does challenge quite a lot with the like the old one on the exited corners with your application of throttle and things like that. But no, it's a great challenge, and this track is definitely going to be a big challenge as well, especially with all the gravel and things being pulled onto track by people over the race.
Yeah, that's one thing that really wasn't a challenge for the last round at Watkins Glen, because there's not really much gravel on the runoffs, is there, where that's not really getting pulled on track, where this track is surrounded by gravel traps. So a lot of them, you know, a lot of these corners, we could find drivers running wide and then bringing that gravel back on track, which could really pose a true test to a lot of these drivers this evening, namely a turn one, because if you end up washing out wide and there's gravel there, you've almost got no hope but to actually just go off track. There's no way you're keeping it on the black stuff.
No, exactly right. And what I've found from all the sessions we've done so far is mostly between the second last and the third last and second last corners have been completely covered with gravel, and it just makes it so then you've got no grip on your tyres when you drive over it. So it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers handle all that.
Well, of course, last round, which was last year, in fact, quite a few weeks ago, Our only race winner of the season, Logan Barnett, who took his first win in Split 2 in round 1 of the season, started off on a hot trot, leads the championship into this round. Of course, he'll be hoping for another strong performance, continue his run forward to trying to claim another championship for 9.5 Sim Sports after Scott Gamble won them the Split 1 title last season as well. But we mentioned the track, we mentioned some of the corners around this place. We've got to have a look at it. We've got to check it out. It's a real classic circuit, Jackos. I mean, this place it's infamous almost. It's my preferred English circuit. If you're talking about tracks that F1 could run, I prefer them to run this than Silverstone, but obviously the cars are a lot faster now, a lot lighter, and probably a bit more dangerous to run around this circuit, but definitely more suited to the junior formulas. But I mean, this track is well known for GT racing, TCRs, BTCC, Formula Ford, other formulas as well, and it is just a beautiful part of the world.
It definitely is, and yeah, some of those corners like Druids and Sterling's is going to be the action corners.
Definitely. I mean, obviously it all starts on the Brabham Straight up towards Paddock Hill, and it's an uphill run. I mean, starting on the grid, we could see that a lot of those drivers who are further up the grid towards the front row of the grid, they may actually get a worse start than some of those further back. Obviously, we know these cars can light it up very easily. Plus, as well, they're already on the incline going up the hill. It's already tough to get a drive off the line like that. Paddock Hill, we could see some chaos very early. We could see drivers running wide, hitting those rears onto that gravel, as we mentioned, and then seeing all hell break loose. Druids, you mentioned, someone may decide to go for a last-minute dive bomb, and or the stamp may not stick to the letter, because we can very easily see some cars dying through turn 2 and a multitude of moments happening. Turn 3 as well, fast pace, getting it around that left-hander, trying to run it as wide as possible. It's a tough little first section of this circuit. It's going to test a couple of drivers. There's opportunities for overtakes, definitely, but also opportunities for you to make mistakes and ruin your own opportunities out on track. And we also have up towards Surtees as well, Jackals, turn 4. This corner is also quite a struggle. We could also see on exit some struggles from drivers as well, either getting it lit up. Getting that throttle down is quite a tough task, but it's imperative on that corner to get it down as quick as possible, because as you run down Pilgrim's Drop towards Hawthorns, you want to try and get the run on anyone ahead of you, because Hawthorns at turn 5 is a good passing opportunity. Same for Westfield Bend. But then running through Dingledell and through Sheen's Curve for turn 7, it's almost a bit of follow the leader. And as you enter up towards Sterling's at 8, you mentioned it earlier, it's a corner we're going to have to keep an eye on, because we could see overtakes, we could see mistakes, and we could see some chaos happening through that corner as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Surtees is definitely, as you said, very difficult to navigate, very easy to light up the rears or wide out, and it'll be interesting to see how the drivers tackle it this week.
And then, of course, as well, Clark Curve for the final corner of the circuit. It's a tough one, isn't it? You come in, you're a little bit off camber as you turn in. Then it goes on camber as it heads to mid-corner. We could see drivers, again, running wide through here, but I think as well they're going to have to be cautious of that pit entry. It's a very difficult pit entry. You come in straight, then you've got a little bit of a dog leg, and then you're just trying to get into your pit bay. So we could see some chaos. We could see some carnage around this 3.9 kilometre circuit, 2.4 miles in the old language, for 9 turns in the clockwise direction as well. I mean, this layout though has been used ever since 2003. Prior to that, they used the shorter version of the circuit, or the former version of the circuit, I should say, but should still be on for a good night of racing thus far as well. Drivers are about halfway through their qualifying at this stage. We've got a heap of chats out there already. Luke Ullman's out there with us. Great to have you, Luke, as well as Dave Arney. Jim Caparonis is with us. Brett Horsell. Simon Haynes, Dane Palmer as well. Great to have you in, Dane. So glad you're safe at the moment. Jim saying, damn, this intro has to change the new cars. It really does, but, management want to wait till the end of the season when they have plenty of footage to put into a new intro for us as well. Bruz Light, you're here in the chat with us too. So great to have you all out there with us as well. Jim, thank you very much for your congratulations on my win yesterday. Much appreciated. Of course, I took part in the Raw before the 24. Finally got my win after I missed out on it last year. That's why the broadcast wasn't on yesterday. But now we get to have a nice Sunday dinner roast of Vets, Jackals, where we can pick apart every little piece of these drivers racing and try and call the action in between as well. But I know that you are a big advocate of Vets eventually offering an under 40 series called like the Vets Juniors or the Vets Prodigies, aren't you?
Yeah, or the recruits or something to stay with, like the sort of like an army theme for veterans and things like that. But yeah, it's very fitting that we're in England and you mentioned the Sunday roast, as that is a pretty big tradition.
It is. It is.
But yeah, I am definitely looking for and recommend that they get a under 40 league going as well, because I love how they run their series.
It's a very well-oiled machine at this point, isn't it? And it feels like an eventual inevitability that they run under 40. Even as an entry point as well. Sean Vandermeulen in the chat as well. He's also commenting for Scotty Gamble. Of course, they're away together at the moment. It's great to have you in here, Sean, and Scotty watching along with us. Wish you could be in the booth with me once again, Scotty, but I'm also happy to have Jack alongside me as well. Warm-up session about to start. Now, obviously, pre-warm-up for a race, Jack, because you've got plenty of race experience. What's this session for most for you? Like, is it just getting yourself mentally prepared, getting the last-minute practice in the car, or is it maybe just a last-minute little toilet break before you end up hitting the track for 200 Ks?
Well, personally, for me, it's the expression session, as you would well know.
Yep.
Just doing some on-track entertainment for the crowd. But no, it's getting a feel for the track, any changes between qualifying and the race, and making sure you've got your setup all dialed in and nothing can go wrong. And yeah, a little toilet break or grab a drink while you're waiting for the race to start.
Got amazing speech from the chat as well. I saw Blake Warboys have a chat here, but unfortunately he got deleted. He was agreeing with us. He would love a fixed setup series for us young people to have a crack at, especially in the supercar. It's way too loud. Turn that down. Very, very sorry about that, but yeah, I think it'd be so fun to even 30 to 40-year-olds. I think it'd be pretty cool, but. You know, this... No. All the way...
At least 25.
I was about to say, you're going to let Rehan Leonage and Ty Delaney take part. Oh, my God. But, you know, this track, I mean, it's well known for a lot of different racing styles, a lot of different racing categories as well. But it feels like a classic, almost supercars style of track. I mean, you could almost picture this as an Australian circuit in an old ATCC... calendar lineup. I mean, it really has got that classic feel as well. Blake Spree done his comedy, said, yes, please. I've been wanting a fixed setup series for us under 40 because Vets looks like so much fun. And that's the reason that we want it as well, isn't it, Jack Oz? Because this series is so well oiled at this point. It's, you know, the young pups, the young bloods are all missing out. Yeah,
exactly. Like, both of us have had our team members or drivers, if you will, race in this series, and we've both been spotting or helping them out on the occasion, just like spectate, be like, just seems like a lot of fun. And yeah, we'd love to have an under 40s version of this.
Even if it's just like one split and it's like you have to pre-qualify to be in that, you know, that next 40 under 40, you know, who gets
yeah, exactly.
Chance. You know, that'd be pretty cool. But warm-up session underway, as I mentioned. Jason Fewens makes his debut in Split 2. He did only miss round number 1, of course, formerly of Split 1 in the Vets. The Mount Gambier native, of course, good friends with our good friend Jack Michelson, who recently made the announcement that he's moving to Team 18 as a number 1 mechanic this year. So we're very proud of Michelson, and I'm sure Jace was very proud to hear that news as well, and just try and match some of that energy on circuit to get himself some wins this season as well.
Yeah, and Jace is a brilliant bloke, so I'm glad to see him out on track having some fun.
Dane asking, did Hoff have our insignia on his car? I believe he did. He's on track at the moment, though, so we can't check. But there he is in the pit lane, so we've got a couple minutes left of the warm-up, and then we're going racing around Brands Hatch. 200 Ks to come your way. How likely do you think we are to see safety cars tonight, Jack Oz? Because this track could really throw it up either way.
I'm going to say... if we see one, there'll definitely be another one. The safety cars beat safety cars.
They do. So you're saying if it makes an appearance, it's going to be making multiple?
Correct.
Okay. All right, we'll have to wait and see because you know, the racing is yet to get underway, of course. Daniel Sheriff's out there. At the moment, he has the best time in this warm-up session, though there's not been that many times. That have been set in the session. Dane saying there's a Mexican wave over in Ukraine. Well, great that we can have that happening as well. Dave Galley saying it's on the bonnet. Okay, very good. So we'll cut to the roof, the hamburger cam at some point on Andrew's car to see the insignia on the bonnet as well. Now, looking at this list of drivers, Jackos, is there anyone that really sticks out to you as who you think could be on for a win here tonight? Because, you know, you've raced against some of these guys in the officials. I know you've had good battles with the Viger brothers at some points and some other drivers as well. Is there anyone in this list, though, that you think would be your lock to take the win here tonight?
Oh, it's hard to lock in a single driver because the entire field is just so close and such great set of drivers. So I would have to say, if I was going to pick one, oh no, I can't. It's too tight to tell.
Well, as the drivers begin to join the grid, our starting grid for tonight's race will be as follows. Lorne Mackay will start pole position for Accelerate Sim Racing with Logan Barnett on the second position on the road. The championship leader will start on the front row of the grid once again. Jason Spriggs, Trent Allen on the second row. Trent is an absolute revelation for Revolution E-Racing, proving the point that he maybe should have been in Split 2 last season, but nonetheless, he did very, very well and was very challenged in Split 3 as well. Jim Caparonis and Dean Logsdale will start in behind them with Andrew Hoffman and Chris Blanchard for your top 8, with Scotty Van Loon, the Rattler, in P9 with Simon Heddersheed making up your top 10. 2 SCR cars in the top 10 for Caparonis and Hoffman. A couple of Accelerate Sim Racing cars as well. For the 6th row of the grid, we have Michael Schroeder and Toddy Duggan for P11 and P12 on the road here this evening. That top 12 looking very, very contentious. It's heavily contested up there. We then have Nick Hasler, who came up from Split 3 this season, who'll start P13 alongside fellow Split 3 promotion Matt McMillan. Wayne Sanderson, Alistair Bales for your top 16 cars. Jamie Peters of Infinity Motorsport starts alongside Daniel Sheriffs of Old Mate and Sons. Mick Clifton and Adrian Zeal making up your top 20. Brett Fisher, Sean Vandermill in your top 22. Jeremy Bush and Derek Lovegrove for your top 24 cars on the road. Stacey Boyd, Chad Viger, Dave Arney, Paul Burns, your top 28, with Shane Randall and Reese DeGoey of your top 30. Matt Muggleton, Simon Haynes, Troy Sybil, Scott Weston, Peter Baxter, Brett Taylor, your top 36 cars on the grid here this evening. Backing up behind them is Richard Barella, Matt Stoyles, your last cars set times in qualifying. Ricky Hyde, Jason Fewens not setting a time in qualifying. Tom Freeman, Jamie Dyke and David Coleman, our race controllers here this evening. And one thing that I've noticed across the first round and into this one, Jack Oz, is Coleman is not pulling any punches in the race control booth. He is not willing to let anyone slip up at all. It is hardball with Mr. Coleman in there.
Oh, as it should be.
Definitely,
you've got to love
definitely should.
Coleman. He's always been to the point and been fair. So
yeah, he has. He's an incredibly fair and understanding race controller. I had a couple of conversations with him post-race before, but also outside of that as well. Of course, got the opportunity to chat to him on the Beyond the Apex podcast a couple of years ago. So he's a great character and great to have in the Vets community as a race controller as well. But you can see, you have to think those drivers back there who are starting facing down the hill, Jackals, may get quite a nice start. But we could also see some carnage as well, like what we saw in Split 3 last night. And if we do, it could be an early safety car.
yeah, exactly. And you also got to take in the fact that someone might forget to put on their line locker and maybe roll down the hill, get a false start. You never know.
Well, lights are going up for the drivers on the road. We're getting ready to go racing around. Brands Hatch, who's going to get the jump towards turn number 1? Mackay or Barnett? We are underway. It is green flag running for the Vets, and it's already carnage with Caparonis in the wall hard. Hoffman's been involved too. Has there been some inter-team play as they all start to move all across the road and fan out like a bunch of ants getting poured acid on? I mean, it is absolute carnage at the moment on track.
Safeway car park stuff, mate.
It really is.
They're just fighting for that last spot in the car park. And it's not even turn 1. It's amazing.
It's not. We can already see Dave Arney, Adrian Zeal, all these guys have been involved, and it's a massive moment off the start line. But Mackay and Barnett have gotten away nice and tidy. Spriggs, Logsdale, Allen, Blanchard, Heddersheed, Schroeder, Van Loon and Duggan, your top 10, and you have to think it was an SCR inter-team, bit of a punching bag moment there from Hoffy and Kappa, because they both found themselves in the wall before turn 1 and found themselves all the way back towards the rear of the grid. As we come up and around towards turn number 8, Mackay looking nice and tidy. We know Barnett's got some pace as well. We know Spriggs, he's a challenger if he can make the whole season. Trent Allen, he's a revelation that we'll be keeping an eye on all throughout season 22 and how he does as the former Split 3 champion of Revolution E-Racing as well. The Rattler Van Loon, of course, took his first win last season for Fishy Motorsports and himself in the Veterans. He's got Michael Schroeder just ahead of him at this stage. Toddy Duggan for your top 10. So it seems intense. It seems that there's been a little bit of argy-bargy early on, but there's also, as you can tell, a heap of gravel on the road at the Exeter Turn 1, Jack. So this could be, well, it could be a bit hairy for some of these drivers heading up towards Turn 2.
Yeah, exactly. Adding a little bit of spice to the already difficult Exeter Turn 1. We'd love to see it. It's going to be an interesting 53 laps to go. So.
We've got Michael Jacko joining us in the chat as well. I believe that's my good friend Jack Clift with us in the chat. No, Jack. He's not racing. He races in Split 3, which is the split below this one. Unfortunately, he was knocked back last season to Split 3, so he's no longer in Split 2, unfortunately. But regardless, we've got a hell of a contentious grid out there. If you're personally wondering if any of my drivers are out there, Shane Randall and Jamie Peters are on track representing my team. Jack, in fact, Randall has had a ripper start off of all that carnage. He's already up 13 spots and into the top 16 at the moment, Jack Oz.
I thought he was going to be the biggest mover, but we can see that Troy Sippel and both and Scott Weston are 14 positions up respectively, and yeah, they're doing a brilliant job so far to miss all that early action.
Yeah, they did very, very well to take that avoiding action. Of course, there were multiple drivers caught out last night in the Split 3 pile up on the main straight, and tonight as well, a multitude of drivers. The biggest loser out of all of it, unfortunately, Andrew Hoffman of SCR. He's currently down 31 positions at this stage. We'll take this opportunity to have a look at the insignia on the bonnet for those fighters in Ukraine. Of course, his nephew, Dane Palmer, is a part of that fighting force, fighting away the Russian forces trying to invade Ukraine at the moment. Not that we like to get too political on the show, of course. We like to keep it, fairly contained, but we do like to give shout-outs to those guys who are fighting the good fight in the world. So big shout-out to you guys out there watching along with us. Thank you so much for supporting the vets and everyone involved in the series as well. But at the moment, I mean, unfortunately for Hoffy, he's had a poor run off the start line. He's made contact with his own teammate and he's licking his wounds because of that. You can see that red chrome has been scratched up to absolutely no end on the front end of that car. And if we find the left-hand side of Jim Caperonis' car, there's a bit of a wound on that one as well. Look for Adam McMillan. These guys have got a nice little battle happening here. Jack Oz, Toddy Duggan and Scotty Van Loon leading this little battle pack. They've got Schroeder. They're now both past Schroeder at this point. McMillan's in it too. He's just outside the top 10. Alistair Bales, Wayne Sanderson, Jamie Peters on the back of this one as well. So there's a bit of work to do for some of these drivers to try and make moves and get further up towards the top 10 here tonight. But at this point of the race, it's a bit like a race of survival, and you're just trying to make your first pit stop and see what happens. See if you get a safety car. See if you get anyone falling off track. It's not really a point in the race where you're trying to push for positions super early.
No, that's exactly right. And you don't want to burn off your tyres or anything and hurt yourself in the long run. So just kind of float in, see if you can make some little gains here and there on the car ahead, making mistakes so you can get past without burning up your tyres.
Yeah, because of course these cars, they burn tyres like nobody's business, do they? They're a bit like an old smoker running through a 40-pack a day. They do not last all that long on circuit when they're pushing ultra hard. Shane Randall is trying to chase down Brett Fisher at the moment. He's got Derek Lovegrove in behind him as well. So there is a couple of little trains starting to form, which we would be suspect to believe that trains are going to happen, especially around the midpoint of this circuit between probably turn 5 and up towards turn 8. But it's the real passing opportunities are in that first sector, probably off towards, maybe questioning if you get the run off turn 4 up towards turn 5. Be sure to get out in the chat as well. Let us know who you want to keep an eye on, who you want us to show on screen. Brett Taylor's out there in his new team for this season, East West Tasmanian Racing. Of course, we know a man who lives in Tasmania, Jack Oz, the good old Ash Oz, and well, he's no stranger to pushing the limits on track. Neither is Brett Taylor, and well, he'll just be hoping to make up some nice positions. He's already up 12 spots. He would like to get inside that top 20 just to get himself a little win, because it's not all about just trying to get podiums. If you're someone who runs in the mid or towards the back end of the field, sometimes a win is just getting above where you started in the race.
Yeah, that's right. Any sort of, as we see, is that left over?
Just trying to get it going again. So obviously, I have a feeling he may have actually clipped that AstroTurf on the right-hand side of track. That's forced him out onto the left-hand side. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's minor wins. They're sometimes some of the biggest ego boosts. You know, if you're someone who's finishing around P25, P24 every single race, to get inside the top 20 is a big personal win for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It feels great to just get above where you normally finish, and yeah, it's one of those things. Just chip away, see if you can get another spot, and maybe two, and then come away feeling like you can then better improve yourself for the next week.
Well, Ricky Hyde, who has once again not taken a qualifying lap, is already up 13 spots in this race. He did the same thing back at Watkins Glen in December. Found his way all the way up onto the podium after that race. So he'll be looking for some big goings here tonight. Again, another tough track though to get some moves done. You've really only got a handful of overtaking opportunities, so he's going to have to take his opportunities where they lie and try and make the most of them, as we can see just how much gravel is getting carried up towards turn 2 after a lot of these cars have ended up off the circuit early on in this race. We're only at lap 6 of 55, still a long way to go. Only just past the 1/10 mark of the entry to this race, but oh, it's going to be a long slog for some of these drivers, especially if we go without safety cars and they don't really get a moment to breathe.
Yeah, 100%. This track barely gives you any area to have a rest. Maybe the back straight, and that's about it. And even then, you're already trying to get ready for the next set of corners, and it's very draining mentally and physically on this track.
It's one that really, really puts out some struggles, and your only real breathing space is heading up here through turn 9 up towards turn 1, and apart from that, you still feel like you're on it because you're fast approaching a braking zone that's uphill and off camber to on camber as you go through the corner. You see Randall trying to keep this car on the track. At the front end of town though, Lorne Mackay leads the way. In behind him, he's currently got Logan Barnett, current championship leader. He would continue to lead the championship if he were to finish in this position here tonight. And it would mean that he has a 100% finish rate on the podium this season if he can back up what he did at Watkins Glen. If he gets the win, then he's on a 100% win rate in Split 2, which would be quite an achievement. And if he can follow that up next week at Magny Core, you'd have to feel there's no stopping him, because these next 3 weeks, tonight at Brands Hatch, next week at Magny Core, the week after at the Nordschleifer, probably the toughest 3-track run we've seen in a long, long time on these calendars, especially for these cars, Jackals.
Well, don't give him the commentator's curse already. He's very close to giving him for the next week. You watch him have a rough week because of you now. But yeah, very tough calendar for the next 3 weeks. It's especially Nürburgring Nordschleife. I had a spin around there earlier, and I would personally love it, but it's going to test a lot of the drivers to get that right.
Well, make the most of the Ringmeister this week, which has supercars at the Nordschleife. You're not going to get the GP layout of the track, but you can definitely practice that in your own time. But yeah, definitely need some practice leading up to that big race for round number 4 of the season, 2 weeks' time from now. Mackay though and Barnett, they're starting to run away with things. Spriggs is being left on his lonesome with Trent Allen hot on his heels at the moment. Allen showed great pace in round 1, but unfortunately made a mistake and sped in the pit lane, and it dropped him all the way down to the back of the field. thanks to that stop-go penalty that he got in round number 1. So he wants to try and prove himself. He nearly did last week. I mean, he proved himself in that he's consistent, that he holds pace, and that he can stay in the top 10. But tonight, he now has to put his words to action and actually back that up with a top 10 finish here at Brands Hatch. Like Warboy's in the chat as well at the moment. I like that iRacing is doing this debris system and rain system, but it still needs a lot of work. It does, Blake. I mean, I think it's, you know, debris and rain, it's a very tedious system. I mean, they spent a long time working on rain, and it definitely could be better. It's fantastic for what it is at the moment. As Lorne Mackay is entering pit lane with a blown engine. What has Lorne Mackay done to blow his engine? I mean, that's heartbreaking. That's almost race ending at this point, Jackals, although I suppose the benefit is he can get a pit stop out of the way and then try and get his second one done past critical lap, which is lap 28. But this now puts him in somewhat of a disadvantage for this race because he has to go a long way on those tyres in the next 2 stints. All of a sudden, he's cut down the evening of those stints to run on those tyres, and now he has to run long on both of his next 2 stints. This is going to be tough for him.
Yeah, it definitely will be. It's very easy to blow an engine on these cars. You downshift too quickly, and we've seen multiple people do it, even in strength of field, or Johnny in my team has done it quite a few times. And
I did it in my first outing in the car. I think it was turn 5 or turn 4 at Watkins. I went over the bump at the end of the straight, and the engine went. It was done. Like, it's absolutely no hope at that point. You mentioned strength of field. I've been getting a real kick out of watching strength of field this season. It's been pretty fun to watch some of those really quick boys have a crack at it, especially seeing Brody Kostecki and Richie Stanaway so involved in it as well.
Yeah, it's great to see. I've been really enjoying it myself as well. You and I have been jumping in and just kind of watching it each Monday, so it's been really good seeing even the real-life drivers, as you said, just jump in. We've had a couple of practice sessions during the week where we've had Jackson Evans in there too. Who's that off? There's someone in the background just off.
I think that might have been Lord Mackay actually just slowing down to let some of the field go, possibly it was. He's just there once again, so it's only going from bad to worse for him. He's actually now gone a lap down on the leaders as Peter Baxter's down pit lane as well. So a couple of early pit stops for some drivers could pay dividends, may not as well. Kyle in the chat, who is that beautiful voice with you tonight? Oh, Kyle. Well. I want to see Kyle in the comments with Jackals. I want to see what he does.
I do too. I reckon he'd be great. As long as he doesn't swear.
Yeah,
like he's been trying to practice around his son, trying not to swear. If he can master that, then I reckon we should invite him to the booth one day.
I definitely think so. Now, there's been some big movers at this point of the race. Matt Stoyles, Jason Fewens, and Ricky Hyde are currently all up 18 positions in this race. Scott Weston's now ticked off his 17th position gain. Matt Muggleton and Shane Randall both up 15 spots as well. Boyd's up 10, Burns up 10, Brett Taylor's up 15 as well. So there's some big movers thus far. At the moment, the most important one is Logan Barnett in the lead. He's up 1 spot. He leads the way. The championship leader looks to continue his run of form in the 100 Camaro and get another championship to 9.5 SimSports name. I mean, for them to do the double this season would be absolutely massive. If Gamble could claim his 7th Split 1 title and Barnett could claim his 1st Split 2 title as well, that would be absolute great gangbusters for that team. Spriggs, we know that he's hungry for a championship. Trent Allen, well, he's on the proving ground at the moment as well. Dean Logsdale, P4, he's been a bit of a revelation this season. We know his teammate last season, Luke Ullman, did quite well for himself, found his way going up to Split 1 this season. Unfortunately missed this week's race though. Head of Sheep, for my money, for a long time, he was arguably the best driver in the series to never win the Split 2 championship. But I think because of how the measuring stick has changed, he has to go a ways about proving that point once again, because he just seems to find himself on struggle street every single week that he's on track, and you hate to see it because he has so much talent and you just want to see him do well.
Yeah, you want to see everyone do well, but yeah, Sorry, I've just seen a name that I haven't seen for a very long time in this list.
Which one is it? Point it out.
Nick Hausler.
Oh yeah, Nick Hasler. Yes, came up from Split
Yes.
3 this season. So.
Yeah, he used to run AOSC back in the day for the
Oh, there we go.
Gen 2.
One of those little one-piece connections out there for us. I mean, some of those wildest connections I've ever found is going back and looking at old races I've done and just seeing either Vets members or even SRW members that I call the action for now racing when I was in Devs or even in Ozpass or other series like that. Even in officials like the Bathurst 1000, I found I think it was the last Bathurst 1000 I did, Scott Rankin was in the field. You know, so it's crazy how you can come full circle and have those little connections with people without even knowing it.
Yeah, and that's just the how great the Australian sim racing network is. Like, who's that? Is that Stoyles off the road?
Stoyles off the road at the exit of turn 2. There is some gravel down there. We noticed that it was getting pulled around from turn 1, and I think there's also been a couple of drivers who've actually gone off at turn 2 just to make that worse as well. So he's back on track, but he's down some spots. Still up 7, respectively, as a net gain in this race, but he's lost a heap of spots that he had made up. He was up 18. That number's now changed just to 7 at the moment. So it's unfortunate for him. Further up the road, though, Scotty Van Loon trying to chase down Simon Heddersheet, who's hot on the heels of Chris Blanchard at the moment. So a nice, hotly contested battle happening inside the top 10 from some, well, veterans at this point. Of course, Blanchard, Heddersheet, Van Loon, Duggan have all been a part of the vets for quite a fair amount of time. And, of course, Rattler's now on the admin team. So, you know, if these guys get in his way, he may have to pull some strings and say, hey, you got a week off because you took me out of the race. We don't think you would do that, would we, Jackals?
No, I don't think anyone would do that.
No, I don't think.
Oh, maybe you. You
well,
might do that.
well, you know, maybe. Quite possible.
Especially in our fortitude light series, I reckon.
No, I definitely wouldn't do that. There's no penalties in that series.
No, you come up to your favourite track and say, Jack, you can't race, you're too fast.
Yeah, you're too fast, you're out. Sorry. Ground ban. You can be race control instead. Ricky Hyde's now found his way into his 21st position gained. He's currently 2 away from the top 20 on the road here tonight. Lap 13 of 55. I mentioned that the critical lap is lap 28, but this tank should realistically only get them, I think it's roughly to, I want to say lap 17. I need to double check. But the important thing to remember tonight is, though, they actually don't have a 100% refill rate on the car. It was set to 70% this week, so that limits how much fuel they can actually put in on their pit stops, because they started with 50 litres and they can only fill up to that 70% mark. They cannot go the full 135 in the tanks of these Gen 3 cars. So that's going to limit some strategies as Heddersheet, Van Loon, Duggan, Schroeder, McMillan all into pit lane. But it also makes the strategies a little bit more straightforward as we've got a little bit of a dropout. We're back once again. Yeah, it kind of makes it a little bit more straightforward. I mean, they needed 185 to get home. Starting with that 50 litres there, that cuts down to 135. So we should see some equal stops of sort of 67.5 litres on each stop. But this was roughly the point of prediction for pit stops at lap 14 as well. Kyle, we already mentioned my Raw win. We mentioned it earlier. We got that out of the way when Jim congratulated me, which I thanked him for the congratulations as well. But we're not going to run that point home. Our focus is on Split 2. Focus is on supercars. And the focus, Jack Oz, is on how well Logan Barnett is just keeping himself cool, calm, and collected at the front of the field, even while sliding it through turn 6 and pushing this thing towards his first pit stop of the race.
Yeah, despite the 2.5 second gap, he's not given up any ground. And he definitely wants to push that thing as hard as he can and build up that gap.
Of course, Spriggs and Allen, these guys just trying to work together to make their way up to him as he comes into pit lane. So does Spriggs. So Trent Allen will get himself an extra point for leading a lap here this evening. Barnett, Spriggs, Logsdale all into the pit lane as Allen goes on to lap 15 to lead a lap of this race. Heddersheet has just come out of the pit lane. He was in the top 10. He's had a stop hold penalty, Jack Oz, at 1 minute and 4 seconds for his stop. So he's had a 40-second stop hold in the lane for whatever reason, whether it was speeding in pits or it was a penalty applied by race control. But that has now pretty much taken header shit out of the hunt of this race.
I'm gonna just, I don't know obviously, but I'm gonna guess that it's probably speeding in the lane because
I think it is.
the entrance to this pit lane complex really sneaks up on you, so would not be surprised if it was that.
Just looking at the ongoing incident reports from race control, there's been no reports of him getting a penalty from race control, so I'd say that is an iRacing penalty that's been applied. So unfortunately, that's now put him right at the back of the field. Technically a lap down on the leader, but he will get his lead lap back once Trent Allen comes into pit lane. But seeing as Allen is now P1, Jamie Peters in P2, Shane Randall in P3 as well. These guys ran this strategy at Watkins. They went long. They got themselves some extra points as well. Unfortunately, Randall's race ended early after being taken out under the safety car. But he'll just be open for a nice, clean running tonight, as would Peters. Troy Sipple as well. We know that good old Scotty Gamble loves a bit of Troy Sipple. We want to see him do well. We want to see him back inside the top 10 as the new sole owner of Quantum Racing, Quantum Performance Racing at this stage. Seeing as Pecky left that team, he now is the sole proprietor of Quantum Racing and leads this crew forward into the future. So hopefully Sipple can continue to rise his way back up to form, back up to championship form as he comes into pit lane in behind Allen, Peters, Randall, Spriggs. Weston also comes in. Ricky Hyde started at the back of the field. Does he come into pit lane? He does indeed. Brett Taylor should follow him. No, Brett Taylor's going for the extra point, which I can appreciate the strategy, Jackals. Take the extra point. You might as well if you can do an extra lap. Get yourself a point. That could be the difference maker later in the season on finishing in one position and finishing in another.
It's an interesting strategy, Hamish. Let's see if it pays off. But we also do have a confirmation from Coleman that he went over about 10 k's faster into the lane.
Thank you so much, Mr. Coleman, for reminding us of that one. Much appreciated. Jackals, you ring up the chat. I replicated your one wheel at Daytona earlier. Oh, I love to see that one. That was phenomenal. There's a heap of cars are in pit lane, but Brett Taylor leads the way, gets himself an extra point, but he will lose the lead once he comes into the pits. And Logan Barnett retakes the lead of this race, but look at the gap that Barnett has. 10 seconds over Alistair Bales. So obviously there's been some differing strategies in the pit lane. It's definitely bold of some of these drivers, and we will indeed have to see if it pays off for them. But for Trent Allen, he is, well, at the moment, provisional P3, but with Bales having a shorter stop on his first stop, should take P2 after the second pit stops.
I've got to say, I do really like some of the liveries out here tonight.
Yeah, they are. There's some absolutely fantastic ones, aren't there? We ran through them in round one as Taylor comes into the pit lane, so Barnett now retakes the lead. I am somewhat of a fan of Alistair Bales' car. It's a nice looking one, as well as Trent Allen's, the nice blue, yellow and white look on it. Manny McMillan, of course, has the Joker colouring for WKMP Simsports. He comes in the lane. Oh, Bales is in the lane, actually, for another stop. So, unfortunately, he is committing to the 3 stop here tonight. Blanchard is also in. And speaking of Jokers, do we think anyone's doing a Joker lap here tonight, Jackals?
I reckon the biggest jokers have got to be in the chat. I reckon Chiefy and Kyle are in there at the moment doing their laps.
Yeah, they're having a grand old time, aren't they? Just absolutely, absolutely roasting both of us in the comms box here tonight. But we're having a great time chatting away with you guys, chatting away with each other and calling the action as we're at lap 17 of 55. So not too far away from the halfway point of this race. Van Loon finds himself in a good position after pit stops. He's P4 on the road. Dean Logsdale just up the road from him. Brett Fisher came in on lap 6 of this race. To make it home, he has to make 22 laps on this stint to get to lap 28. And that is a hell of a long way on tyres. Try and keep this thing in check. One of the bigger gainers in the pits was Jamie Peters, who now finds himself inside the top 10 after his first pit stop. Gary Buckland in the chat with us as well. Great to have you out there, Gaz. Hopefully Anita's watching us too. Congratulations on her performances thus far in Split 4 this season as well. As I believe the safety car is out on track. And I think, Jackos, some of our hearts may be broken, including Scotty Gamble. because in between the weeds, in between the trees at the moment, is unfortunately the carcass of Troy Sipple's Quantum Racing Mustang. And, well, we gave him some plaudits, but right now he is out and looking to get a tow back to pit lane. So this is an absolutely heartbreaking moment for him. Trent Allen, though, is now the leader as Barnett. You mentioned bold strategies, Jackos. Barnett has come into pit lane under the safety car for fresh rubber and a little bit of extra fuel. Could we see that as a bit of a game changer? I mean, you did say that if we got a safety car, we were going to get multiple. But if this is the only one, this could really hurt Logan Barnett's chances of going back-to-back with wins in the first 2 rounds of this season.
Yeah, it could go either way, really. It'll be interesting to see how it all pans out for him.
So Allen will control the field once we get away. We've got a couple laps of safety car at this stage. Whilst we're under the safety car, we're going to take a quick little ad break brought to you by Racecraft Simulations. Be sure to not go anywhere, and if you're in the WA or Perth area, be sure to go visit them over at Perth Airport. Try out some rigs, maybe even buy one of your own as well. We'll be back very, very soon. Here's some messages from them. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Safety car is about to end. Trent Allen is going to have control of the field. Big thank you to Racecraft Simulations as the title sponsor of the V8 Veterans. I mentioned if you are looking to get a rig for yourself and you live in the WA area or you're willing to pay shipping costs, be sure to visit Racecraft Simulations over at Perth Airport for any of your sim racing needs, whether it is a rig, wheel, or anything in between. But at this stage, Jack Oz, Alan's going to control the field off the restart. This is one of the toughest points of a racing event, is getting the car back underway, getting yourself back into position and back full firing and back into that rhythm that you'd put yourself in before having to slow up for the safety car.
Yeah, I would be absolutely crapping my dacks right now if I was Alan, being ahead of the whole field of angry veterans. I know that much.
As we are underway once again, Alan gets us back under green flag. Logsdale P2, Van Loon on the podium with Fisher, Peters, Schroeder, Sanderson, Duggan, Caperonis, Barnett, your top 10. So it's not been too much of a net loss for the former race leader and current championship leader Logan Barnett, but definitely one that he would have wanted to give up if he could have maybe turned back time and not pitted under the safety car. We come up towards turn 4, lap 20 of 55. You can see Alan working the brakes mid-corner, trying to get that front end perched in, get the thing turned around. And, well, we noticed that some of the faster drivers, especially Brody Kostecki, Jack Oz, they're really driving on those rears, really forcing them to kind of slide and just allow the car to oversteer through corners, because that's how you're going to get the most out of your laps and how you're going to get the most out of this car when trying to get through some of these, 90-degree corners or even fast-paced corners that you would normally think, I have to brake for, otherwise I'm not making it.
Yeah, exactly. We've noticed when being on board with them a couple of times, there's on the exit, they just kind of let it slide out, but not drifting. It was more just slipping on the slip angle to the point where it has just enough grip to help get a better acceleration out. And we can see Alan's doing that as well out of, well, back straight towards, I can't remember the name of it, but the dip.
Down the Brabham straight up towards, we'll just say turn 1, shall we?
No, the back straight.
Ah, yes. Call it the old alleyway, shall we? Just,
The alleyway.
Yeah, the alleyway. Up towards turn 5 after Surtees. But Alan's doing well for himself. Logsdale as well. Great to see Van Loon back on the podium. Of course, took his first win last season in the night race at Motegi, and he would hope to get his second win to his name here this evening or even this season as well. Of course, many appreciations to his congratulations former Raw win. One of the things he did say is, I know what it's like to get that first win. So I definitely know what he felt back at Motegi, and I know he's hungry for another one. As you would know as well, Jack Oz, because you're hungry for that first win. As soon as you get a taste of it, you're like, I need more.
Yeah, exactly. You get bitten by the bug as soon as you get the first one, and you can't get enough.
You can see, though, Fisher trying to hang in there. He got a little bit of a reprieve of this long stint he now has to do. Remember, he needs to make it to lap 28 to make it home on this short or smaller fuel tank of 70%. So, 22 laps, and you can see him somewhat kind of half sliding it through that final corner. 22 laps on this set of tyres, that's worrying, for anyone. Even with a safety car, that's a worrying time to have to try and go that long, stay that consistent for the whole period of the race and try and keep yourself in contention at this stage. You see Randall, he had a little bit of a blink just before. He's got Paul Burns just in behind him at this stage. Matt Muggleson just ahead. Stacey Boyd, Jason Spriggs in behind them as well. This battle looks like it's going to start heating up towards lap 28. And I would say a lot of those early pit stoppers are probably going to be the ones to stop right around that critical lap, where the guys who came in just before the safety car, well, we're most likely going to see them go actually further into the race, maybe even up towards lap 40. So then that last stint is nice and short and the car is nice and light. See Burns got some war wounds on the front of that car, Jack Oz. I mean, whose ass do you think he's been kissing all race to get that much makeup on the front of his car?
No comment. I don't want to make any enemies in vets.
You're only here for 2 weeks, Jack Oz. It's all right.
Yeah, but in 12 years' time, I might be on the grid,
Very, very true. couple of chats out there whilst we were away as well. Kappa saying he should have pitted on lap 4, not lap 3. Chevo Jones out there with us too. Come on, Stacey, keep lifting. Logan Barnett saying always handy to read the sup regs and know the fuel tank size. So if he'd actually read the supplementary rules, he would have known that he actually only had a 70% tank. He must have thought that he was at critical lap for a full tank size when he put underneath the safety car. Same for Simon Haynes as well. Dane Palmer saying Sanderson flying the flag for SCR. He is currently, he's up inside the top 10. Keep an eye on how he does in this race as Randall runs it wide at turn 4. He's now under pressure from Stacey Boyd. Spriggs wants to get involved as well as they come up around turn 4 at Surtees. It's all of a sudden started to heat up between them. Is there possible contact? There is. Randall's off the road. Randall off the road and dropping spots, and it's absolute heartbreak for him after a phenomenal run up to this point of the race. You can just see, this is one of the worst feelings, isn't it, Jackals? You have to just wait for the whole field to come past you.
Everyone did a very good job to avoid him as well. I know that we've seen a couple of crashes in the past of people being blindsided following another car, and everyone did a great job to avoid him there.
Yeah, they somehow, I mean, he was realistically, apart from Spriggs, who obviously was one of the perpetrators in that moment, whether both of them had fault, whether the one of them did, we're not sure. But he was really the only one that got caught out by it. The rest of the cars took avoiding action and managed to save themselves from getting too flustered and too hurt from it. We've got a great battle starting to form here. Jamie Peters leading this one, Michael Schroeder, Wayne Sanderson, Todd Duggan, Jim Caparonis, Logan Barnett on the back end of it. Matt Muggleton is amongst this as well. He would hope to get rubber banded into this battle so he can have a crack at fighting some of these guys throughout the rest of these laps. We are now past the halfway point of the race, Jack Oz. We've settled into somewhat of a rhythm. Does it seem like it's Trent Allen's to win at this point, or do we think that Barnett can come back at him?
Barnett's going to implement the Need for Speed Most Wanted rubber band and come flying back at him. But no, it seems Allen seems pretty comfortable at the moment. But it's anyone's game. Anything can happen in the blink of an eye. So.
Well, we're 100 Ks down. We've got 100 Ks to go. We've already had so much happen. Multiple cars off the road, a safety car to boot as well. Now, you mentioned that if we get a safety car, we're going to get another one. At this stage, though, it's not looking like we're getting another one. I mean, it might take something pretty drastic for that to happen.
Yeah, I might have to come out on track and cause one in a Volkswagen Polo, like in real life.
Ashton Rees in the chat with us feel like a dirty rum / pre-workout combo is in order here. Please no. Please
You've
no,
already
Sean.
done 2 in the last 24 hours.
Yeah,
You don't need to do a third.
He had one before our Raw time slot and then had one afterwards. I mean, that's... Come on, Ashos. No. Don't do that. Brett Fisher's out there with us as well in the chat. Great to have you in here. Harlan Esports as well. Shout out to you. Dane Palmer in the chat. Hamish, the Mustang doesn't look any worse being beat up. No, it's a great looking car, and it even looks good when it's been absolutely crunched. Speaking of Mr. Palmer, Andrew Hoffman gets passed by Peter Baxter at this stage. Of course, we were noticing the pretty little pink rear number plates on these Camaros of SCR, Jack Oz. Notice that they say "Eat Me" for Chubby Buns Burgers.
Yeah, I originally thought it was a sassy little comment, but it's Chubby Buns. That's some great marketing. So
Well, maybe it's a bit from column A and a little bit from column B.
But yeah, it's a great marketing idea from them. It definitely got my attention. So
I hope that is actually Jim Caparonis' number plate on his actual car as well. That would be great. Like, just have a nice Chubby Buns branded car with "Eat Me" as the number plate. That'd be phenomenal. Daniel Sheriffs, though, comes into pit lane. Ricky Hyde now gets past him. He's now up 28 positions in this race. Matt Muggleton, who had a real struggle in round 1 this season, as you can see these cars having to run through the gravel that is on the road. He struggled last time out at Watkins Glen a few weeks ago, but on the up and up here tonight, he's up 20 spots. and proving that he has actually got some pace in this old mate and sons Camaro. He may even be a challenger for a top 10 here this evening. Barnett, he is getting, well, if I must say, he is smelling that Chubby Buns double cheeseburger out the rear of Jim Caperonis' car at turn 4 there, Jack. He was right up that tailpipe of the Camaro ahead of him. Oh my God, look at that gravel and grass getting thrown off that Camaro. That is absolutely ridiculous as they
They're
run up.
deploying smoke screens out there.
It's a tactical advantage at this point, isn't it? Just like deploy the smoke and hope that someone makes a mistake in behind you. This is, I thought the spray was bad. I almost feel like the grass would be worse. As Duggan and Sanderson continue their battle at this stage, I want to have a look at actually the sort of suspension movements in these cars. If I can actually select the right camera, there it is, as they come down through turn 1. Look at the amount of suspension load that right-hand rear is getting up towards turn 2. I mean, it is about as much compression as you can ask for. We should see it become offloaded as he comes through turn 3. But it's great that we can see this sort of movement from these camera angles now. I know Gen 2 we got a little bit, but this is the icing on the cake for me, that we can see this sort of stuff even on parts of the car that you wouldn't see when it's driving normally.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting to see that there was actually dirt on the components too. It's a nice little feature that they put in.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, one of those little extra mile details that iRacing puts into, of course, getting these cars to be as realistic as possible and look as realistic as possible as well. There's definitely some gravel on the left-hand side of circuit. We can see Sanderson flicking it up as he comes up towards turn 7 and in towards turn 8 as well. So this, I have a feeling that, you know, gravel is fantastic. Debris is fantastic. But we're going to get to the Nordschleifer in a couple of weeks, Jack Oz, and there's going to be one person who's going to run into a sand trap on that 20-kilometre track and just drag a heap of gravel, and it's going to be undrivable through one of those corners.
Yeah, it's bound to happen. It's going to happen. It's I kind of wish for, as bad as it is, to someone to do a burnout on the sand trap and just bring a whole bunch over onto the track, you know, like Johnny did to me. That would make for an interesting entrance to a corner.
It's a bit like the rain simulators at driving academies, where they just have a big hose, put a heap of water on the track. But this time it's with dirt. Let's see how well you do with gravel out there. But you see Duggan, he's still putting that pressure onto Wayne Sanderson. This battle is inside the top 10. Peters is trying to chase down Brett Fisher. He's got Michael Schroeder just in behind him as well. But Trent Allen still leads the way. Less than a second separates him and Team AJR's Dean Logsdale at the front of the field. Then a further 1.7 seconds back to the Rattler Scotty Van Loon. He's got a nice 5.5 second gap back to Brett Fisher. So pretty much for the Rattler to confirm this podium for himself here tonight, as we now are at the critical lap. He just has to try and keep it clean, keep himself consistent, hope there isn't another safety car, and he should come home with some podium chocolates next to his name.
We've also found out that Jim Caperonis has a brand new fan in Grayson for the pink car. So his favourite car.
Young Grayson Gretsch, of course Kyle's son, big fan of the pink car that you have out there, Jim. So feel proud in that fact that you've now coaxed a 3-year-old to be a fan of your car, which it is a nice colour combination, the old teal and pink, as it looks that Brett Fisher has had contact with Jamie Peters, as Peters is looking to redress the position. So you'd have to wonder if maybe Peters has some fault in that one, and in fact may even find himself with a penalty later in the race. And seeing as he redressed, of course, you know, Coleman is firm but fair. He may give him some leniency if he does hand out a penalty to him. They make their run up towards turn 5. Logan Barnett still trying to fight his way back towards the front end of town. He would still be leading the championship if he would have finished where he is at this stage. But he's got some work to do if he wants to get back onto the podium and keep that 100% rate of finishing in the top 5 and finishing on the podium in the first 2 races of the season. But running it wide at turn 7 is not going to help. And now he's under pressure from Brett Fisher into turn 8. Somehow keeps his hopes and dreams alive of a top 10 finish here tonight at Brands Hatch. But it's starting to get spicy. It's starting to get troublesome for some of these drivers in the mid part of the field as Barnett has to come in and take his final stop of the race. The tyres must be screaming at this stage. Sanderson is also in as well. But Barnett was struggling. Jack Oz, and we can see there, I think that's... Well, Mackay is actually
facing the wrong way.
He's backed it into pit lane. I don't know. We might have to see if we can find the reasoning for that later in the piece. Maybe after the race, we'll go back and find how we ended up in pit lane backwards. But
Definitely a highlight of the season.
oh, definitely if we can find it. Oh, Sanderson and Barnett, though, have now taken their final pit stop of the race. Barnett has now come out in P31 on the road. We'll see if this has now hurt him to come in early or if this is going to help him in the run, not being in that battle that he was in inside the top 10. We now find, though, Todd Duggan inside the top 5. Caparonis all over the back of him as well. And we can see that Muggleton's now inside the 10. Fisher and Peters still in there as well as Burns, but the lingering feeling of a penalty possibly coming Jamie Peters' way. The contact, we suspect, with Brett Fisher, seeing as he redressed, to kind of put 1 and 1 together, and then you get the answer of 2. I mean, it's pretty mathematical at this stage. Heap of chats continuing to come in for us as well. Gary Buckland, Jim Caparonis, Mr. Pinky. He has a new nickname now. It's definitely Mr. Pinky. Jim also saying passing was virtually impossible as both Jim and Peters come into pit lane. Their final stop of the race. Leif McClement in the chat as well. What happened to Spriggs? He fell a bit behind Barnett. Well, he had contact earlier with Randall, but I think he's just been in a battle with Burns the whole time, and that's why they've dropped back a little bit as well. If I look at the pit stop time that he took, it was a 37-second stop, so Barnett took a very short stop on the second one, so I'm not sure really why he's actually dropped so far back as well. But there's a lot of battles happening, a lot of problems for some drivers as well. Some drivers that aren't having problems though is Muggleton, Fisher and Burns, who battle inside the top 10. So, you know, we're at the halfway point of the race, Jack Oz. This is the point of the race now where it's a bit awkward. You're kind of waiting to get to that final pit stop. You're kind of waiting to get to those final 10 or 15 laps and just keep the car on the road and keep it nice and consistent and just hope and pray that you don't get yourself a penalty or get yourself in the wall.
Yeah, exactly. It's very easy to do as well. So just kind of tiptoe around, try not to do anything silly and try and work your way to the front for the final stop and hope that it sticks.
Well, it's pretty much all you can do at this point of the race. Just hope that you can find some pace, find some consistency and get the most out of your car as well. As we can see, we'll check further back in the field. Simon Heddersheed, he's on the run back through the field. He had a stop-hold penalty for speeding in pit lane earlier in the race. He now finds himself up in P21, just in behind Reece Degoe. Of course, Degoe, if he wanted to do something absolutely spectacular, could try and win the title this season, make it a double title or 2 titles in a row for SLS Racing. Of course, Steve Grumley won the title last season, the final Gen 2 champion, and they would love to have their name next to first Gen 3 champion in Split 2 as well. Sean Vandermeulen into pit lane, you can see, for Nova Sim Sport, so takes his final stop of the race as well at this stage. Adrian Zeal is currently in behind Chris Blanchard, so heap of battles on track. It's almost too many to have a look at all at once, isn't it, Jackals?
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of little mini battles going around everywhere, so which is good to see. It means that it's not just a total whitewash of just constant trains, but yeah, it's great to see. But unfortunately, we can't look at them all at once.
We've got this great battle starting to form between Zeal and Blanchard. Duggan is off the road in towards turn 8. It's a wild ride, and that's a heap of debris that's now been dragged onto the exit of turn 8, and that could catch a couple of drivers out. if they're not careful and they're not aware of it, Jack Oz, because, well, if there's a bit of argy-bargy and one person gets forced out wide and they try and put the foot down, you could really lose that rear end on that gravel that's now being dragged onto the road at one of those danger zones that we mentioned at the start of the broadcast.
Yeah, it's one of the danger zones, thanks to Erkowitz's furniture. You know, we found out that the hard way in our practice session the other day, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see if anyone gets tripped up by that later on in the race.
Duggins in as well as Fisher and Arnie as well. Peters, though, has rocketed past Brett Fisher. We saw them make contact earlier in the race, or we saw the back end of their contact in the race. I've been told that Peters is copping himself a points penalty at the end of this one for that. Did not get a pit lane or time penalty, though, so the redress did do him dividends. He did allow himself to kind of just, you know, at least get something out of it and not actually just all negative. So as Jeremy Bush is off the road and nearly runs into him off the exit of turn 3 as well. So they're all starting to fall apart here, Jack Oz. And the tough, mundane part of the race where you could start to lose your cool is really catching a lot of drivers out.
Yeah, it seems that everyone's starting to get a bit mentally drained, and you can see the mistakes starting to creep into everyone. It's going to be interesting to see who can tough it out the most and make the least amount of mistakes.
Muggleton and Zeal now come into the lane as well. Simon Haynes trying to find his way back up towards the top 10. The kid, as he's called, John Van Ree had some big predictions for this guy as a driver in the Vets, and he's just hoping to live up to them. He's just hoping to continue his run of form. And, well, if we put the comparison into who I would argue is more of the revelation, Trent Allen, those guys are the last two of the Gen 2 Split 3 champions in the Vets. And Allen at the moment, well, he's proving that maybe he's the better of the two.
Very early doors in the championship, right?
And it's very early doors in the championship, but championship comes a knocking. And opportunity comes a knocking as well. You have to answer it when it does. Leith McClement in the chat, off bit of fatigue setting in. I think possibly because we mentioned, Jack, this is a track that you don't get much reprieve. You don't get much of a time to have a breather and have a break. And, you know, with one safety car at this stage, after 34 laps, this is definitely a point of the race where fatigue will start to set in, especially through boredom as well. If these drivers are kind of not within a battle and they're just trying to make it to that final stint.
Yeah, it's very easy if you're just out there circulating by yourself to let your mind wander, and as we see, Alan gets slightly more sideways than he was doing earlier, so he might also be feeling it a little bit. But yeah, it's very easy to do, and seen a lot of great drivers do it throughout the field. So
Dean Logsdale's also now in pit lane, so Van Loon now finds himself into P2 on the road. It was a longer stop for Logsdale, 30 seconds in the lane. We'll see if Van Loon matches that one on his next stop, as he has a little bit of a blink and disappears off our screens for a moment. Michael Schroeder's now on the podium. Paul Burns, Jason Spriggs inside of your top 5. Ricky Hyde, Stacey Boyd, Mick Clifton, Chris Blanchard, Simon Haynes now inside the top 10. Some big movers in towards the top 10. Burns up 24, Clifton up 11, Boyd up 18, Haynes up 22. Ricky Hyde, though, the biggest mover of the race, and if he were to finish where he is, would take the record for most positions gained in a Split 2 event, being that he's currently up 37 positions in this race. But one rule that we did make for ourselves, me and Mr. Gamble, is that if we think that you would have actually qualified where you're finishing around and you haven't qualified, you're pretty much null and void for driver of the day, because realistically, Ricky Hyde, if he'd actually set a time, probably would have qualified inside the top 10. That does beg the question, though, Jacko, is which drivers out there, as Van Loon and Burns, I know Van Loon did not come in, as Burns and Clifton come in, which drivers out there do you think just have to kind of continue their run at the moment and just keep themselves clean, and if they do, could be a front runner for driver of the day?
Oh, surely you can't really go past Brett Taylor or or even Stacey Boyd up 19 spots, Brett Taylor up 24, and they're just chipping away, doing their job, and doing a great job.
Yeah, indeed. I think one other one I would put towards that list, and we'll obviously talk about this, in around about just under 20 laps time when we're having to put names forward. I think one I'd also like to put forward, if he can stay where he is, probably Scotty Van Loon. I mean, we don't normally like to give the race winner driver of the day because, of course, they're taking the race win, so Trent Allen, unfortunately, wouldn't be eligible at the moment. But I think Van Loon, to be up 7 and onto the podium, and same argument for Michael Schroeder, both of these guys, you could also make arguments that they could be considered driver of the day because they've been through some tough battles this race. Hasn't been easy for them, and they have to try and keep it clean to remain on the podium here tonight.
Yeah, 100%. They're doing great as well. Well, everyone's doing a ripper job out there, keeping it clean and battling really hard with each other. But yeah, I'd have to agree that Scotty Van Loon and Michael Schroeder are also doing a ripper job up in the podium positions. There's a Palmer in the chat's going, we've had a vote here and 13 votes for Jim, the fight back.
It's been a hell of a fight back for Jim, to be fair. I mean, he did have his, as he's having a wild ride off the road at turn 8, and that's more and more gravel being dragged onto the road. I was about to say, he kind of had a leash around his neck from his own team boss before turn 1 of this race when he was put into the wall.
Tell you what, that was a hairy moment, and I definitely would have needed to change of underwear over that one.
No, you and me both, brother. I mean, that is such a. I mean, we both experienced moments like that, haven't we? Where you're in your own mind, and then all of a sudden you're off the road, and you're like, oh shit, got to try and keep the car on the track, please. Like, don't put it in the wall. And yeah, it's one of those real wide-eyed and GT striped moments that can happen very easily, especially after a long stint like this one for some of these drivers.
Yeah, I reckon he's probably sitting on a bit higher. Must be about a 6-pack of chubby buns higher in his seat by now.
Yeah, he's definitely got something spread under him, but he'll be hoping that he's just got some more pace to find his way back up towards the top 20 on the road at this stage. Haynes and DeGoey into pit lane, so Hedersheed now finds his way back inside the top 10. He does need another pit stop in this race, though, to try and solidify himself inside the top 20 of this race. The highest, though, position driver has taken 2 stops, but he took his second stop before the critical lap, is Jason Spriggs, so he still needs that third and final stop, but it will be a shorter one for him as he took 37 seconds on that second stop, so we should still find him in and around the top 10 once he comes out of pit lane after those second pit stops occur. See, Sanderson is in tightly contested battle here with Mick Clifton and Ricky Hyde as he runs it wide, gets caught on the gravel at turn 2, and unfortunately gives up 2 positions in 1. And Ricky Hyde now gets back up to a 25th position gained after his second stop. He did drop back as Van Loon is now in the pit lane for his final stop of the race. This is where it comes down to. This is the nitty and gritty. This is where it's most important. Cannot afford to get those speeding and pit lane penalties. Cannot afford to have anything go wrong. This needs to be perfect for him, Jack, because he has to try and put pressure on the race leader, Trent Allen of Revolution E-Racing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just at this point in the race where you can't let up any margin of error. You gotta try and. Oh, sorry, I thought he was going to go wide then. I don't know why.
It's a very deceiving corner, isn't it? You think sometimes someone's just definitely going wide.
Yeah, I thought he might have thought it was the Indy circuit instead. But no, this is about this time of the race where you got to knuckle down and try and put all the pressure that you can on the cars ahead of you and not make any errors yourself. So we see, is that Shane in the lane?
Trying to get a bit of camera angle of it. So he's actually just gotten his car fixed from that contact earlier. So he went that whole time without getting this thing fixed up. So now it's crunch time for him as well, because he's going to drop back around about where he started the race. And the goal for him would pretty much be get to get back to where you started, and that's still somewhat of a positive after an unfortunate moment earlier on where he found himself in the wall. But Trent Allen is in the lane. The leader is in for his final stop of the race. And he'll have to hope it is to absolute perfection, hits every single mark. Could not afford any mistakes to happen. Otherwise, he will lose the lead to the rattler Scotty Van Loon, who will be hunting him down like a cheetah hunting down a wounded gazelle as Allen is in the lane. And there's Van Loon up towards turn 8. So Allen should come out back in the lead, but the dependence is how far in the lead will he be over the Fishy Motorsports driver of Scotty Van Loon.
Schroeder and Boyd also came into the lane too, so they finished their last stops.
As Allen comes out of pit lane, so that's the gap. That is the gap between Trent Allen and Scotty Van Loon. There's Simon Heddersheet in between him, but he needs another stop to get home in this race. Schroeder and Boyd dropping back an absolute mile as Logan Barnett now finds himself back on the provisional podium of the race. So pitting right around that critical lap, Jackos, getting into that clean air and just chipping away has paid absolute dividends for Logan Barnett, because now he finds himself on the cusp of a second podium in a row this season. Taylor and Bales in amongst this sandwich battle with him. He looks to fight his way forward. So Allen, you would suspect, is provisional leader, seeing as Jason Spriggs is only 15 seconds up the road, and it's a net loss of around about 30 seconds in the pit lane. Blanchard, McMillan, they still need stops as well, as McMillan's having a couple of little blinks here or there. He's in behind his teammate Blanchard. But for Allen, this would be an immense moment for him, Jackos. If he can pull this off, it would be his first win in Split 2. It would be a first time in a long time that the first 2 rounds of the season, we've not only had different winners, but we've had debutant winners as well. Their first win in Split 2. And again, I hate to wring the neck of it. It would almost solidify the belief that he should have been Split 2 last season if he does actually get this win.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal achievement if he can get this one done. And well, so we might have put the mocker on him there, and with a little lock up into
A little bit of a
turn
pause.
2. Yeah.
I think that lockup was also due to the gravel being right on the braking line, like right on the racing line at the braking zone. That's kind of what made that thing lock up just then. But yeah, I mean the 017, he just needs to keep himself clean. He's got 15 laps, nearly 14 and a half laps in fact, until he's got his very first win this season, and his very first win overall in Split 2. Took plenty of wins last season in Split 3. But this guy could really be a true contender this season. He was unlucky in round 1 not to come home in a top 10 finish. And tonight is a point of proving for Trent Allen. All he has to do is keep it clean, hope and pray that Spriggs comes out behind him, because even though it's a 30-second net loss, Spriggs is going to need a lighter fuel intake on his next stop, which means he'll have a lighter car to the end, which means the battle could be on for young and old at the front end of town. You can see further back as Heddersheet now comes into pit lane. Pete Baxter, of course, running the classic, Russell Ingall, not Russell Ingall, the Larry Perkins version of the Perkins Motorsport car for CX2. Of course, Brett Fisher, Paul Burns in this battle, Jim Caperonis on the back of it as well as Daniel Sheriff. So Baxter, who has been on the up and up as of late, just trying to get some more positive performances. Had a good run with Scotty Rankin last December in an endurance race for the Sandown 500. We'll be hoping to try and get some positive performances out of this race here tonight as Heddersheet comes out right amongst the battle. It's almost like walking into a bar fight as soon as you walk through the door, and he has to get his fists out and just try and punch his way through, because he does not want to get eaten alive at this point, Jackos, and that's one of the scariest parts of exiting pit lane, is coming out right amongst the battle.
Yeah, and it was pretty brave to try and go around the outside of turn 1. Normally that doesn't work out very well for anyone, so I was pretty brave, and luckily it didn't end up in disaster. So, or sideways on the exit of turn 4.
As
As we
Spriggs
see,
is in pit
Spriggs
lane.
in the lane.
Yep, so he's now in. There is Trent Allen. He will take the lead as he comes around the final corner. But back to that battle. This thing's really starting to heat up between these guys. We can see Kappa's putting the pressure on Fisher. Burns is just in for a positive time. He just wants to be in the battle. He's up 7 spots. Baxter, well, he's been a bit of a Mr. Consistent tonight. He's up 16 and inside the top 20 as well as Hedesheed really letting the rear end of that car fly. As you can see, the gravel that is on the racing line through turn 8, and it is catching some drivers out on exit. They have to be cautious with that throttle input on the exit of 8 because we could find some drivers losing the rear end and ending up in the wall on the left-hand side. Hedesheed continues to apply, continues to massage the pressure on the back of Peter Baxter. He tries to go for it at turn 2. It's a rear lock for him. They made contact. Positions lost for both of them, and that will be a penalty for Simon Hedesheed at an almost certainty, Jack Oz, because, well, he wasn't far enough up. There was contact made, and it's dropped Peter Baxter 6 spots in this race, and that is absolute heartbreak for him.
Yeah, it's really easy to do there, especially with all the muck on the ground. Left by all the other cars, like the gravel and the tyre, or the rubber pickup. It's a shame to see. You don't never want to see that happen to someone, but it's very easy to do.
Further up the road inside the top 10, Scotty Weston, Jamie Peters, Todd Duggan. They look to continue their battle for a top 10 finish here tonight as well. Weston's up 26 spots, although he does need another pit stop in this race, as does Brett Taylor, who is teammate, who's up into P5 and up 31 positions at the moment. The fear, though, for Peters is that he'd be getting held up by Weston at the moment, and there is a fast approaching Ricky Hyde in behind him who will be looking to put pressure on Todd Duggan, who doesn't like to give up positions easily. So there could be a hotly contested battle in behind him, and he'll just be hoping that he doesn't catch any shrapnel that may come off of them if they collide together. As we can see as well, I mean, Weston, he needs to try and get this thing in the pit lane. He's going as long as possible. Peters, well, he hopes to get some clear track ahead of him so he doesn't have to try and attack and defend against Duggan in behind. So we'll keep an eye on this one and see if it starts to heat up further through the piece. At the moment, though, further back, Mac Muggleton, the back end of Wayne Sanderson, McMillan in this one as well. Blanchard, Boyd and Logsdale, these guys trying to chase them down. It's been an unfortunate race for Logsdale. Jack Ozzie started inside the top 10. He ran on the podium for a fair while, but unfortunately he's only gone backwards tonight.
Yeah, it's been a rough one for him out there. Started off quite, well, seeming like he was going to have a strong one out there, and unfortunately it's just not the way it's gone for him tonight. But hopefully he can bounce back for next week's race, and hope to see him further up the field.
What's next week? Magny Core. That's going to be a tough task. I mean, that's a circuit that we're both pretty vocal about, that maybe doesn't suit the supercar too much as Bales comes into the lane. It is a good track, but with these cars and how they are battling each other at certain circuits, I mean, a bit, personally for me, I'm a little bit worried. We may have some carnage. We could have some good battles. I'm hopeful that we get a really, really great race next week, because I am a fan of Magny Core, as unpopular as that may be. I do think it has the possibilities of creating great racing. It just so happens if we have the RNG on our side, I think, when it comes to that track and the supercars.
Yeah, you definitely will not see me do officials there next week, because I'll definitely do some practices, but you won't see me in the officials. I'm not a fan of not a huge fan of that track. It definitely will be interesting next week.
I think it will. I mean, there's some interesting tracks coming up all season, of course, for this calendar. As I mentioned, this week, of course, Brands Hatch. Next week, Magny Core. The week after, the Nürburgring. The one I'm most excited for coming up on this first half of the season, Belle Isle, round 5, 150k, so a shorter length race. But, sometimes short can be quite angry and quite ferocious. And we could be on for one hell of a barn burner out in Detroit on the 30th of January, when these guys go racing on the Thursday night. Okayama, for round 6 and then Snetterton round 7. But those final 3 rounds, the Red Bull Ring, Sandown and Phillip Island, that is probably the trifecta that I'm looking forward to the most. You know how much of a fan I am of the Red Bull Ring. You know how much I love supercars at Sandown, and mean to end it all at the circuit that's made for a track that's made for these cars, or these cars that are made for that track. Phillip Island's going to be wicked for our season enduro, as there is just an immense amount of gravel at the moment at turn 2. It feels like we're playing in a sand pit.
It's like a minefield out there. While you were talking, Jason Spriggs also set the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:27.3. So he's definitely on a charge to try and get back on the back end of the podium by the end of the race.
Well, I mean, Spriggs, he's got the pace. It's whether he can get up onto the back of Schroeder, Barnett. I mean, Van Loon's a bit out of reach. He's about 5.7 seconds up the road. Same with Allen. But realistically, there's Spriggs, there's Schroeder. So P4 could be on the cards. I just don't know about P3 where Barnett is, because he's got some good pace in that Camaro.
I just can't get over how much gravel is getting kicked up around there. Like, I know that I said it would be bad, but I didn't realise it would be as bad as when Urquhart was doing it on purpose.
Yeah, it's, this is really like when you are at, this track almost feels like a towel that's been on the beach for the last 2 hours. It's just piled a heap of sand and gravel onto it. And, you can just see it. It's all on the racing line. It's all up through turn 2 and 3. And it does worry me for the Nürburgring, because there's a lot of opportunities to go off track. There's a lot of corners where gravel can be. It's going to be a tough task for these drivers. I mean, it's, you did some laps there today. It was already tough enough as it is, even without the gravel on the track.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, I am glad I'm not a mechanic on these cars in between this round and next week. There'll be so much gravel and dirt to get out from the panels of this car in between rounds.
Yeah, there may be a bidding war to hire Consuela into any of these teams just to clean the cars up for them leading into Magny Core. No. I knew I could make you break at some point. I just had to find the right thing. But we mentioned earlier, Todd Duggan, Ricky Hyde, these guys chasing down Peters. Hyde has now found himself on the back end of Todd Duggan. Luckily, though, for Peters, Scott Weston has given him a reprieve. He has come into pit lane, so Peters now just has to try and run away from Duggan and Hyde in behind him. But there's pressure being applied from all angles. Hyde's putting the pressure on Duggan. Duggan's putting the pressure on Peters, but he's also trying to reciprocate and defend against Hyde in behind as well. And if you're in any of these guys' shoes, you kind of want to be in Ricky's shoes, because you're not having to defend, you're all out attack. And if you put enough pressure, a mistake could be made from Todd Duggan's perspective.
100%. You definitely want to be in Ricky's shoes at the moment, being able to
maybe
have the upper hand.
not, because they'd be full of sand at the moment. I mean, might just want to tip him upside down first. But a little bit of a love tap though on the exit of turn 2, so he's definitely applying the mental and physical pressure. He is. He's giving a little knock on the back door. It's like, oh, by the way, I'm here, but.
Like, hi. As we've been on board with Ricky, it seems that Jason's actually got past Michael Schroeder as well.
He has indeed. So
he's
got that job
starting to motor on his way towards trying to reel in Logan Barnett.
Yep. So he's got 7.5 seconds just about to catch up. So bit of work to do for Jason Spriggs of Accelerate Sim Racing. I mean, I mentioned last season and even leading up to this season, he's one of my favourites for the title race. I mean, Barnett, he's heavily up there as well. Van Loon to get another podium this season is up there. And I think as well, I mean, Trent Allen at the moment, he's proving that he's a championship contender through and through. Like, if he can put these sorts of performances up week in and week out, there is no reason why he could not find himself in Split 1 next season and possibly even battling for a championship here in Split 2 throughout season 22 as well. Hyde is continuing this pressure on Todd Duggan. He's just, I mean, at this point as well, we mentioned it, it's 6 laps or 7 laps to the end. It's crunch time at the moment. Other than your tyres crunching the gravel on the track, it is crunch time. This is the point where you start to put that pressure on You start to try and make moves, and you're just trying to get those little gains that you can to get those extra couple of points next to your name, because they could be make or break come the end of the season. You know, finishing P8 could cost Ricky Hyde an overall podium in the championship, and finishing a P7 could find himself in P3. I mean, that is just how close it can get. No worries, Dane. Thank you so much for viewing with us once again. Thank you as well to all of Unit 33 for watching us as well over in Ukraine. Hope you guys stay safe. Hope you guys stay smart, stay healthy, and hopefully we can see you guys next week when we're racing out at Magny-Cours as well. But great to have you in the chat with us once again. Rebecca Bogan in the chat, giving her love out to her partner, Mickey Clifton, the rock star, the mulleted man. As Hyde has got a run off turn 8 on Todd Duggan. Jackals, he wants to put the pressure on him, and there's contact at turn 9. And up in smoke and up in heartbreak goes Todd Duggan's race, who is off the road, and coming back on the road is only going to drag more and more gravel onto this already dusty tarmac surface here at Brands Hatch. That is heartbreak for him as he pulls it into pit lane.
Yeah, it'd be even more heartbreaking just watching everyone go by as he has to wait for a safe opportunity to get back on track.
So now the question becomes, does Hyde get a penalty? Because was it a penalty-worthy moment? Was he at fault for that one? I mean, I'm not 100% sure. I've heard that Race Control are looking at it, so we'll see what they say, and if they think he is deserving of a penalty for that one, or if there was some net code involved. It was a wild incident, so I do have a feeling that maybe there was some net code, because that was pretty aggressive of Todd Duggan's car to react like that from what would normally be a little minor touch on the entry to the corner. Hyde is now up 36 spots in this race. Jamie Peters up 11, Clifton up 11 as well, Muggleton up 21, Sanderson up 6. Van Loon is up 7 inside the top 2 on the road. Allen's up 3 in the lead. Barnett and Spriggs down 1 at this stage. Schroeder up 6. So there's some positive movements inside the top 10. We've got 5 laps to go, Jack Oz. Who are some of your front runners for driver of the day at the moment? I mean, who really is speaking to you as a front runner to put forward for that award?
I reckon for me it'd have to be Scotty Van Loon. He's been there or thereabouts all day, gained 7 positions as you said, and he's just kept it clean, kept a quick car all day. So I reckon it would probably have to be Scotty Van Loon.
I think it's been a great run from him, as it appears to have been contact with Blanchard and Logsdale possibly up at turn 2, so these guys dropping back. But yeah, I agree. I think Van Loon, he's been on fire this race, and if he can hold P2, I mean, this would be a hell of a result for him. I think some other names I've put forward as well. I think possibly Michael Schroeder. He's had a great race, finds himself inside the 10. Jamie Peters as well. I know Ricky Hyde's up 36, but remember there is that little, asterisk of, well, if he'd actually qualified, he probably would have qualified inside the 10, so 36 positions gained. Whilst impressive, is not as impressive as it would be if it was someone who normally qualifies up the back. I think, shout-outs obviously to Mick Clifton. He's also had a good run as well. Matt Muggleton's up 21 inside the 10. Wayne Sanderson's up 6. I mean, there's so many options we can go through. But I think at the moment, it's Scotty Van Loon is leading the way for that run, as he's right on the back end of Trent Allen. So Allen obviously has made a mistake somewhere, and I think it might be this one at turn 1. Oh, my God.
Very lucky not to hit the wall there.
No, but he caught that gravel that was on the left-hand side of the road, and he's just dragged a heap more back on track. So all of a sudden, it's now a massive pressure moment for Allen, and Van Loon could be on for his second win in the Vets if he can pull this off, which unfortunately for him would then take him out of contention for driver of the day if he wins the race.
I think if I was the driver, I'd rather win the race than driver of the day, though.
That's very true. I think Scotty would agree with you on that one. But all of a sudden, we are on for one hell of a fight for the final 3.5 laps of this race. The top 2 are now separated. by less than 1 second on the road. They've got lap traffic around them, and Allen, who had the easy run home, he just had to keep it clean. He's now put the pressure back on himself and now has to prove, has to perform, and has to push himself to get his first win in the Vets, as there's a car off the road. I believe that's Chris Blanchard, or Richard Barella, sorry, off the road at turn 8. But this battle's on, and it's on for the win. Could not have asked for a better ending. Could not have asked for a better crescendo to this race. To hopefully, as Allen's actually starting to find some pace, hopefully get a nice feisty battle happening between the two Mustangs at the front of the field. We come down through turn 1. You can see all that gravel that's been put on the road there. I mean, it really is, Jackos, like a bunch of kids have come along with some shovels and just started to pull sand out of the sand pit and don't care where it's flying. I mean, it's ridiculous how much there is on the road.
It definitely brings a new meaning to our bucket and spade awards, I reckon.
No, genuinely, we actually could have a bucket and spade award. We'd have to think about who's brought the most gravel on track, or had the wildest off-track moment as well. But Leith and chat, Trent will be spewing you went back to check his mistake. Hey, you know what? I had to. It was the wildest moment of the race thus far. Off the road and, well, has nearly lost the lead for himself, but he's having to perform at this stage. He's starting to build that gap once again, Jackos, so maybe a little chink in the armour, but nothing too much to worry about for Trent Allen at the moment.
Yeah, just got to hit your marks and make sure you don't replicate that that accident again, and it should be fine.
Two laps left to go, so that's all he has to do is just hit the marks, as you mentioned, and keep it clean. As we cross the line, Allen, lap 54 of 55. 2 laps left to go for the Revolution E-Racing car. It'll be the first win for the team in Split 2 of Vets. It'll be the first win for Trent Allen in Split 2 as well. The first time in a long, long time, might even be the first time ever, I'd have to check the stats, that we would have 2 debutant winners of Split 2 in the first 2 rounds of the season. It's definitely rarefied air. It's definitely some murky waters. But Gen 3 is bringing the heat, and it's bringing the opportunities for a lot of these guys to perform out on the road. But for Logan Barnett, P3 on the road tonight, if he can finish there, would remain the championship leader, and that's all he can really hope for at this stage, Jackos, is keep it clean, keep it on the podium, and keep that orange number next to his name on the timing tower.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You always want to come out with the most amount of points gained, and put you in the best position.
Well, Allen, he had a wild ride through turn 1. He definitely would have been thinking, hold me now. He was definitely 6 feet from the edge.
I think he was more like 6 inches from the edge. But yes.
Oh, but as he crosses the line to start the final lap of the race, white flag for Trent Allen and Revolution E-Racing. It's a swan song for him. As he comes around turn 1, he's now built the gap out to over a second, so Rattler decided not to push it too hard. He wants to solidify the P2 on the road. He's playing the smart, long championship game as they come up towards turn 3. And Allen just has to keep this thing on the tarmac, has to keep this thing on the road, and has to keep himself cool, calm, and collected towards his very first win in Split 2. And he'd be solidifying himself as a championship hopeful, as a championship contender, if he could get this win here this evening. He's got some lap traffic up ahead of him in Todd Duggan, who's carrying some damage on that Nova Sim Sports car, so it's been a night that's gone from bad to worse for Duggan. But it's been a night of flourishing for Trent Allen at this stage as he comes up towards turn 6. And the run down and back up the hill for turn 7 as well. An immense moment for him, and an immense moment for his team, Revolution E-Racing, as well. Round towards turn 8, the amount of gravel that's getting thrown up will feel like fireworks in his eyes. And up towards turn 9, couple of cars off the road, bunch of gravel on the track. But Allen will be thinking, this championship, can it take me higher? as he runs around the final corner and will take his first win in the Racecraft Simulations V8 Veterans. Split 2 for Revolution E-Racing. Van Loon P2 on the road. Barnett will remain championship leader in P3 for 9.5 Sim Sports. Spriggs with an immense run as well in P4, and Michael Schroeder looks to make up the top 5, but he's under pressure for some lap traffic in behind. Peter's home in P6 for Infinity Motorsports. Ricky Hyden, an immense run, 36 positions gained, equals the record for most spots made up in a single racing event. Clifton up 11 in P8. Matt Muggleton inside the top 10 for the first time this season, and Wayne Sanderson home inside the 10 as well. But what a run home, what a race, and what a driver is Trent Allen Jackos, because that was absolutely immense from him.
Oh, it was a phenomenal drive. Only seeing literally that one mistake throughout the whole race, and I did an amazing job.
It was an incredible job from him. And I think I may have actually found the moment as well of how Lorne Mackay actually entered the pit lane. I know we questioned how he was in there backwards earlier in the race. I think I've actually just found it, luckily enough. So if we find this, if it's actually going to go to it, hopefully. Nope, that's his normal pit stop. Okay, fair enough. We'll find it again. I'll continue searching as Trent Allen is out there, but I think we can both agree, Jackos, that this guy right here, Scotty Van Loon, and he almost has to be driver of the day, because that's an immense effort from him on the podium, another podium to his name, and gets himself a good chunk of points in this championship as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that he'll be happy to take the driver of the day trophy today for with his arms wide open. So.
Well, he definitely won't stop dancing after learning that he's now getting that Driver of the Day award as well. He feels like an absolute creed on the rest of this field. You know, it's real credence for him, and just a positive for him as well to continue a strong championship run. He had a great championship run last season. Of course, stayed in Split 2 this season. So he finds himself as the Driver of the Day, and he finds himself on the podium here this evening as well in P2. Of course, Trent Allen was P1, Logan Barnett in P3 too. We will run through the results in just a moment's time. I am quickly scrolling through to find this pit entry for Lorne Mackay, because unfortunately, well, we're not going to leave you out, Lorne. We have to show you backing it into pit lane, because it is wild, it is woolly, and it is absolutely incredible when we do actually find it. So I'm just going to quickly scroll.
Do you reckon we'd be able to find the start as well? How crazy that was.
Unfortunately, no, because for whatever reason, it wasn't recording the results at the start of the race. So unfortunately, we've lost out on that one. I could actually just skip back. No, if I skip back to the start of this actual session, then that's just going to be a pain. But still, we got to just quickly scroll through. We had a great heap of chats out there as well, though, with all of you tonight. Jim Caperonis joined us, as well as Gary Buckland, Mick Clifton, Luke Ullman, Brett Fisher, Brett Horsell, Wayne Sanderson. So thank you so much all for joining us here tonight. We are just going to quickly find this moment of Lorne Mackay, because we have to show it, because it is honestly, no offense to Lorne, it is hilarious. So this was how he entered pit lane. Do we want full speed or do we want slow-mo?
Oh, you may as well just leave it in the slow-mo.
Might as well. So as he came around towards the pit entry, I'm trying to get a really good angle of this, because it's quite ferocious, if you ask me. I'm pretty sure it is. Nope, that's his second pit entry. That's the wrong one. How fun. We'll find it again. We're going to
While Hamish is trying to find this, if you enjoyed the stream, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already to the YouTube channel, and hit the bell icon. It really helps out the Veterans League. And I'll take this time to say I really appreciate the league and you, Hamish, for allowing me to commentate. I know I'm pretty rusty. It's been over a year since I've commentated. So.
Mate, it's all right. We got the Creed references out of you in the end. It's all good. So it was a fun time. It was great having you once again. I think I found it. I have found it. There it is. Okay. All right. So we're going to see how all of this actually happened. So just as a bit of fun, what has happened to Lorne? So he lost it at turn 9. Big old drifty boy. Unfortunately, Nick Hasler came through, or Rick Viger was one of the, or Chad Viger was one of the two. And unfortunately, that's big damage. And he's then well, reverse entryed into the pit lane.
Is that a completely blown engine too
I think it might be.
on the downshift?
I think it might be. Give us a good angle.
Yeah, the yellow lights flashing means no engine, so
Yeah, the engine was absolutely gone, so... Oh well, Lorne, you got yourself in the history books, you got yourself in the memory books as well. Congratulations on arguably the best pit entry we've ever seen. So maybe
yeah, most unique, definitely.
maybe we'll do an end of season awards, and that'll be one of them, with most unique pit entry. But look at the park job on him though; he made it to the box. So
Did a better job than Michelson does I'm driving forwards.
Oh well, but yeah, big thank you to you, Jackals. Big thank you to everyone else for watching with us as well. Much appreciated as always. The provisional race results for this one, before the penalties were applied. Trent Allen comes home P1 for AITT Revolution E-Racing. Scotty Van Loon home in P2 for Fishy Motorsports. Logan Barnett made up your podium for 9.5 Sim Sports. He continues to lead the championship towards round 3 at Magny Core next week. Jason Spriggs, Michael Schroeder, your top 5. Jamie Peters, Ricky Hyde, Mick Clifton, Matt Muggleton, Wayne Sanderson, your top 10. Manny McMillan, Paul Burns, Brett Fisher, Jim Caparona, Simon Heddersheed, your top 15. Stacey Boyd, Chris Blanchard, Peter Baxter, your top 18 on the road this evening. Dean Logsdale, Adrian Zeal, Brett Taylor, Alistair Bales, Andrew Hoffman. It's a good comeback for Hoffy after the lap 1 incident. As well as Scotty Weston, Nick Hasler, Jason Fewen, Shane Randall. Another good comeback after the moment with Spriggs earlier in the race. As well as Derek Lovegrove in P28 on the road. Further back, we had Sean Vandermeulen and Todd Duggan, Daniel Sheriffs, Richard Barella, Reese Tagoe, Chad Viger, Dave Arney, Matt Stoyles, Jeremy Bush, Simon Haynes. Your top 38, Lon Mackay, Troy Sibyl. Unfortunately, the only non-finishers not to make it to 75% here this evening. But massive thank you to Jack Oz for joining me once again in the booth. I look forward to next week and having you back here for Magny Core. Jack Oz is going to be absolutely immense. Big shout out to all of our series sponsors, including our title sponsor, Racecraft Simulations, and the other series sponsors as well, Logitech G, Parramatta, Isuzu, Play One, Sim Gear, Nova Sim Sports, Sud Speed Gloves, LGC Images, and Chubby Buns Burgers for providing us with the Driver of the Day award. Big reminder as well, and a big shout out to the Bin the Blade for Balin Foundation. Next round, round 3, will be the Bin the Blade for Balin round, as it is I believe it's his birthday next week. So lap 16, we will have a lap of silence for him in memoriam of that, as well as a heap of donations going out for him as well. So we'll be raising money for that foundation next week. Any cars, I believe, that are running the Bin the Blade for Balin Foundation logo on them will garner a $3 donation from the league itself to the foundation, as well as a couple of other donations as well going in. So big thank you to everyone for watching us. Big thank you to everyone for supporting us as well. To be sure to support those sponsors of the series, as well as the foundations, Bin the Blade for Balin Foundation for round 3 next week, as well as the McGrath Foundation for the breast cancer awareness round last season as well. But I'm Hamish Munro, joined alongside by Jack Anderson here tonight for round 2 of season 22 of the Racecraft Simulations V8 Vets Split 2 action out at Brands Hatch. We'll see you guys next week for Magny Core, where we'll see who can bring the baguette or who can end up twisted and twirled around like a croissant. But until then, stay safe, drive hard, and as always, bye for now.
Trends, I ain't playing weak, no I'm playing for keeps, can't stop me, I'm a legend. I run with the crew that's making the moves, get out of the way, we coming through, we got this, never stopping, and we won't lose, no we can't lose.
Introducing the Racekraft PT1, custom-built full chassis racing simulator. The design project, codenamed The Cage, an 80/40 extrusion chassis sitting on top of a Sigma Integrale DK2 Plus 4-point full motion actuator system. No compromises in the cockpit of the PT1 simulator. To maximize the experience, we start with the 49-inch ultra-wide monitor for the greatest field of view in a small footprint of the simulator, down to the SimuCube wheelbase that's tucked up and behind the monitors with SimCore extensions to get things out of the driving area. Everything is connected to a Cube Controls GTX steering wheel with the built-in dash and all the extra button functions available at your fingertips. Driving through the Raceworks S1 pedals, the potentiometer throttle and the 2 hydraulic pedals for brake and clutch ensures you maximize the feel underfoot, and seating yourself into an OMP HTER bucket racing seat with OMP belts connected to a G-belt tensioner to provide that extra feeling and the heightened experience while you're driving. Additional interfaces and accessories in the PT1, we have twin butt kickers, one on either side of the OMP seat, as well as a Jinx sequential shifter, the SimPush Race Logic timer to the left-hand side, a Racekraft built-in WinSim kit with Philips Hue lighting and a built-in soundbar, plus the OMP side net to finish off the experience in the PT1. The Racekraft PT1, build number 1, the ultimate in sim racing experience, combining the best products in the market with the passionate, no compromise approach that goes beyond racing simulation.